If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.
It's Domenic Vadala. Go ahead, Dom.
Well, good morning, Baltimore. I am Domenic Vadala, and this is Baltimore Sports Talk 1570, WNST, and WNST.net. And you know, we were talking about the Orioles, and Lord knows it has been a tough year in Birdland thus far. Nobody's denying that, even though August has been a much better month than quite a few months in this year and years past as well. Going into the season, my personal prediction or threshold for success, so to speak, was if the Orioles could end up somewhere around 500. Now, by that I don't mean 81 and 81 exactly. I said if they can end up somewhere, say, positive or negative 5 to 7 games of 500, you could probably look at 2010 as a success in Birdland. Now, Lord knows that we're not anywhere near that stage, and we're not going to finish there. So I suppose by those standards, you have to look at this year as a failure. With that said, I'll just mention I have a friend who doesn't really follow sports at all, save for following the teams that are near and dear to my heart. And when they lose, he lets me know about it. Now, his attitude is, yesterday's game bears no relevance to tomorrow or to today or anything along those lines. And by that I mean if the Orioles win 2 games in a series and they lose the 3rd game, his attitude would be, you guys lost, you're no good, even though we won 2 games out of 3 in the series. And I guess my point is that with sports you can't be short-sighted. You got to look past the tip of your nose. There's always more than meets the eye. So my point is that the Orioles go into this season, and for reasons being what they are, they have a lot of injuries. Brian Roberts goes down early. Felix Pie goes down early. I mean, the whole back end of the bullpen, Michael Gonzalez, Jim Johnson, Alfredo Simone spent time on the DL, just to name a few. The team was riddled by injuries. However, they pressed on. And you have a manager in Dave Tremblay who I had met a couple times, and I'll tell you that he's a good guy, a good person, cares a lot about the fans, but probably not the greatest leader in the world in terms of clubhouse leadership or, leading players into battle and so on and so forth. He was fired on June 4th, and the result of that, the result of all those injuries and the result of the poor play on the field and so on and so forth, led us down a path that culminated with Buck Showalter being hired on August 3rd. Buck Showalter has been a major league manager a few different times. He has led players into battle, and he's always had tough teams, solid teams, as well as teams that hustled. I've always thought he was a good manager. So I guess my point is that if the Orioles don't go down that path with Buck Showalter or with Dave Tremblay, culminating in him being fired, that doesn't set into motion a series of events that ends with Buck Showalter coming aboard as the manager of his team. And I would say that the Orioles are poised moving into the future to be a good team with the nuggets, quote unquote, as Buck Showalter puts it, that they have. So again, to speak to my question about success or failure, I would say that 2 or 3 years down the road, if the Orioles are contending, and by that I mean playing meaningful games at this time of year, contending for the playoffs, and maybe for the division, if in 2 or 3 years that happens, then I think you have to look back at 2010 and say it was a success, or at the very least not the complete and utter failure that we say it is today. So for people like my friend that I referenced, he would say, well, you're no good, you stink, and your team's a failure, your season's a failure. But again, 2 or 3 years down the road, if the team is contending, I think you have to say that this year is a success. So I thank you for listening. I am Domenic Vadala, and this is Sports Talk 1570 WNST and WNST.net.
If you love Baltimore sports, You'll love WNST.net.